Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained? Unsure why, not because they yelled or insulted you. In fact, they were gentle, kind, even genuinely complimentary. Yet, you left feeling hollow, questioning yourself, with a vague unease, lingering. That's not your imagination playing tricks. It's a sign you've crossed paths with someone whose dark intentions hide behind a polished mask of kindness and care. These men don't always reveal their shadows. They don't slam doors or raise their voices. Their words are chosen with precision. They say exactly what you want to hear, then slowly seep into your emotions, dragging you down, making you doubt your worth. It might be a colleague who praises you while quietly sabotaging your opportunities, or a family member who claims to love you but controls and drains you day by day. In today's video, we won't paint evil in dramatic or terrifying strokes. We'll examine it calmly but clearly through 5 types of men with subtle, malicious intent. Not to judge or grow cold, but to understand. And most importantly, to learn how to shield yourself, holding fast to inner peace like a Stoic calm, composed and unyielding. The first is the manipulator disguised as a friend. You'll never hear this man raise his voice. He doesn't pressure you overtly or insult you outright. He approaches with kindness, warm words, and a nod of goodwill. But if you're sharp, you'll notice that after each encounter, you feel smaller, less confident, and more doubtful than before. This is the manipulator cloaked as a brother. He doesn't control you with force. He controls you by making you believe you need his approval to feel worthy. His advice sounds sincere. I think you're truly gifted, but sometimes you rush in too fast. Maybe it's a lack of experience. His words seem kind, but after the talk, you're left feeling inadequate. What makes this man dangerous is you don't realize you're being manipulated. He positions himself as your helper, your confidant, the one who cares most about you. I knew a man like this once. In meetings, he'd praise my leadership potential. But in private talks with the boss, he'd casually mention, I seemed unstable or needed more oversight for consistency. At first, I didn't suspect a thing. I thought it was honest feedback. Only when I was passed over for big projects did I see he wasn't helping me grow. He wanted me beneath him. He wanted me to believe I needed him. In truth, the opposite was true. Stoicism teaches us to stay clear-headed, not angry. Marcus Aurelius never said to rage against such men. He urged us to observe them as outsiders, using their actions as a chance to sharpen our clarity and calm. Epictetus wrote, "You can't control what others say about you, but you can decide what seeps into your mind." That's the core lesson. Manipulators don't defeat you with actions. They use words, hints, and subtle influence to chip away at your self-belief. But if you stay grounded in your values, their words pass like a breeze through an open window. If someone in your life leaves you doubting yourself after every talk, tread carefully. They may not hate you, but they don't want you stronger than them. As a Stoic, your aim isn't to cut them off rashly, but to maintain inner distance, never letting anyone but yourself define your worth. Next, the false friend. These men don't come with obvious negativity. They don't wound you directly. In fact, they make you feel like they're your greatest ally. They listen, agree, cheer you on. But notice this. They're only there when you're at your lowest. When you stand tall again, they fade or worse, turn sarcastic, These are men who love only your weakest self. They want you emotionally dependent, but they're never truly happy when you grow stronger. At first, they seem to understand you like no one else. A safe harbor. But as soon as you start to grow, even in positive ways, they pull back. You'll hear them say, "Man, you've changed so much. Not the guy I knew." As if growing is something to be ashamed of. As if not needing them is betrayal. They'll tease in ways that hit your deepest insecurities, the ones you've shared in confidence. Looking sharp today, trying to turn back time. They'll quip. They call it joking. But you know better. It's not love. It's mockery dressed in a smile. I had a friend like this. She was there when I was down. Comforting. Checking in. Always available. But when I found my path, started caring for myself, and learned to say no, she pulled away. Then came the messages. "You've changed." Man, probably too busy with new friends to remember the old ones. I hadn't grown cold. I'd simply stopped feeding her emotional dependence. Stoicism doesn't teach us to cut people off with loud declarations. Seneca put it best. Don't hate those who aren't genuine. See them as a test of your clarity and inner strength. If you need a mirror to spot true kindness, watch how people act when you no longer depend on them. Real friends lift you up and embrace your growth. The false friend only values you when you're weak, because that's when they hold the emotional upper hand. Stoicism reminds us that true bonds don't make you feel small, don't sow doubt, and certainly don't guilt you for growing. If someone only recalls your old self and never acknowledges who you're becoming, they're not cheering for you. I once knew a man who thrived on my struggles. He'd listen, nod, offer support. But when I started to rise building my business, finding my confidence, he grew distant. His yokes turned sharp, hinting I was getting too big for my boots. Stoicism taught me not to fight him, but to walk away. Knowing my growth wasn't his to judge. They want to keep you where they feel safe. Remember this: you owe no one your stagnation. If someone only loves you when you're down, that's not friendship. It's dependence cloaked in affection. As a Stoic, you don't need to make a scene. Stay silent, move forward, and grow stronger every day. Third, the controller. Some men don't shout their need to control you. They don't give orders or threaten. Instead, they wield something subtler, your emotions. Because they speak in the name of love, it's easy to mistake their control for care. These are often close ties, spouses, family, or old friends. They don't outright forbid you. They suggest. They don't demand. They worry. They say things like, "I'm just not comfortable with you hanging out with that guy." Or, "You shouldn't dress like that at your age. People will talk." Or, "Working so far from home, aren't you worried someone might take advantage?" Sounds reasonable. It feels like protection. But look closer. They're shrinking your world bit by bit. Every decision becomes an emotional negotiation. They don't want you independent. They want you reliant to feel secure. The worst part, they make you feel guilty for doing things just for yourself. You want time alone. They sulk. You reconnect with old friends. They grow cold. You say no to their requests. They quietly withdraw, later saying they're disappointed. They don't bind you with ropes, but with guilt. I heard a story of a man married for decades. His wife never raised her voice, yet he felt trapped in a glass cage. She'd gently steer him from friends, hobbies, anything that was his alone. "I just want what's best for you," she'd say. But he felt like he was living for her peace, not his own. That's the prison of overprotection, as Stoics call it. I faced a controller once, a mentor who seemed to care deeply. He'd warn me against risks, saying, "I'm just looking out for you, son." But each warning clipped my wings a little more, until I realized he wasn't guiding me. He was chaining me to his comfort zone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Freedom isn't just breaking chains, it's not letting others' emotions rule your mind." When you adjust your actions to soothe someone else's feelings, you're living their life, not yours. If you need permission to be yourself, pause and ask, am I living to keep their peace or to grow as a man? True love doesn't demand your constant presence. It wants you strong, free, and choosing to return, not bound by guilt. Stoicism doesn't push rebellion, but teaches clear boundaries between care and control, connection and captivity. You can stay in the relationship, but not let it define who you are. You can love without losing yourself. As Epictetus said, if something costs your inner peace, no matter its name, it's not worth it. Fourth, the saboteur. Not every man attacks with harsh words or overt actions. Some choose a quieter path. They don't openly oppose you, but they never truly support you either. They're there, but always the first to plant doubt in your mind. Often, they're longtime friends, close colleagues, or family. They don't do anything obviously wrong, at least on the surface. But pay attention whenever you're excited about something. They're the first to mention risks, failures, or reasons it might not work. You say, "I'm planning to start a small business." They reply, "The economy's rough. Most startups fail fast. Think hard before you leap." You mention learning a new skill, and they say, "At our age, what's the point? Just relax." They don't stop you outright, but they sow subtle doubts. The hardest part is their skepticism hides as concern. They call it being honest, looking out for you. I had a colleague who'd always offer practical advice whenever I shared a new idea. Never loud, never harsh, just reasonable warnings. "I'm just worried for you. Man, that path's tough. You're doing fine already." Over time, I noticed he only chimed in when I was on the verge of growth, leaving me second-guessing myself. But that honesty doesn't empower you. It makes you hesitate, doubt yourself, sometimes turn back. This quiet sabotage is dangerous because it feels like friendship, sounds like care, and seems like support. That's why it's so hard to spot. If every time you share a dream with someone, you leave feeling smaller, less excited, less sure, that's not care. It's emotional control dressed as realism. It's eroding your spirit under the guise of honesty. Marcus Aurelius said a wise man doesn't need others' approval to do what's right. He only needs to stay true to his own nature. That's a Stoic truth. Don't let others define what's right for you, especially those who plant doubt while pretending it's love. If someone always highlights what could go wrong, making you hesitate more than act, and never truly stands with you in your growth, step back. Not because they're evil, but because they may not be ready to see you shine, and that discomfort, conscious or not, drives them to keep you small. Stoicism doesn't teach us to distrust everyone or cut ties coldly, but it gives us this: a clear mind is your strongest shield. Keep your mind like a mirror. reflecting clearly who lifts you up and who holds you back. Once you see it, you don't need to argue, prove, or explain. Just keep walking forward with your strength while they stay behind. Fifth, the energy drainer. Some men don't hurt you with sharp words or clear actions. They simply exhaust you by being around. They don't insult, criticise, or control. Yet, every moment with them leaves you tired, heavy, even guilty for feeling that way. I knew a man whose presence was like a storm cloud. He'd share endless complaints, his struggles, his injustices never attacking me, but pulling me into his emotional pit. At first, I thought I was just being a good friend, listening, supporting, but over time, I dreaded his calls, avoided his visits. After each talk, I'd sit in silence, as if I'd weathered a tempest. He'd say, "You're the only one I can talk to." I'd feel guilty, so I stayed. He'd say, "Nothing ever goes right for me. No one really cares." I'd try to comfort him, but he'd reply, "You can say that because you don't get it." In time, I saw it wasn't about solutions. He didn't want healing. His pain was his identity, and playing the victim was how he felt seen. He didn't want a lifeline, he wanted an audience. And I was it. Stoicism doesn't make you cold, but it teaches a vital truth. You can't fill another's cup when yours is empty. Epictetus said, "A loving soul doesn't carry every burden. It carries what it must and lets go of what it can't." You're allowed to stop listening to the same story repeated for years, not out of cruelty, but because you value your mental strength. I had a friend like this. I gave time, energy, support. I listened, advised, tried everything, but nothing changed. It wasn't about growth for him, just validation of his pain, his victimhood. One day, I stepped back, not with anger or a grand exit, but with quiet distance to protect my mind. It wasn't selfish, it was clarity. If I'm drained, my presence is no gift, just an empty gesture. You're not born to carry the world's weight. You don't have to be everyone's savior. Love doesn't demand endless sacrifice. And kindness doesn't mean ignoring your boundaries. If someone leaves you exhausted, ask, am I helping them? Or am I chained to their pain? If the answer stings, that's your signal. It's time to step back, reclaim your energy, and set a new boundary. Because, as Stoicism reminds us, to bring light to others, your own flame must burn bright first. Once you recognize these types, the subtle manipulator, the false friend, the controlling protector, the quiet saboteur, the energy drainer, you might wonder, what do I do with them? Cut them off. Avoid them. Confront them. Speak up. Or stay silent. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. But there's a clear path. Respond like a Stoic. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be rigid or emotionally cold. It teaches you to act with purpose, not swept up in others' emotional games, not letting their negativity change who you are, and above all, not letting their poison steal your inner peace. With manipulators, stay vigilant. Watch their words, like you're observing a chess game, not caught in their web of subtle hints. Ask yourself, am I acting from my own values or their quiet influence with false friends? Don't waste energy explaining or fixing the bond. True brothers celebrate your growth. Those who don't will guilt you for moving forward. You don't need to apologize for becoming better. Just walk the path true to your core. I learned this with a controlling family member. I didn't lash out or argue. I calmly said, "I appreciate your concern, but this is my call, and I'll own the outcome." Stoics don't need approval to do what's right, just clarity within themselves. With saboteurs, you don't need to expose or accuse them. Just keep your distance. Stop sharing your deepest dreams with them, and they'll fade away. You don't need applause from those waiting for you to stumble. Focus on your own steps. Those are what you truly control. With energy drainers, remember, kindness doesn't mean exhaustion. You can care, but with limits. Learn to say, "I need space today. I'll listen when I'm ready." That's not selfishness. It's self-regulation, the bedrock of Stoic practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you're angry with someone, ask yourself, have I given them power over my mind?" That's a reminder every Stoic must hold close. Whenever your peace is shaken by anger, pain, or frustration, pause and ask, did I choose this reaction? Or am I being swept along? The highest freedom in Stoicism isn't removing toxic people, they'll always exist. It's mastering how you respond to them. You can walk away from a provoking conversation without losing your calm. You can choose not to retaliate, explain, or justify, and still know you've done right. Because, in the end, a toxic person only wins when they make you lose yourself. So, if you spot these types around you, don't fear. You don't need to change them. You only need to change how you react. And when you do, you've taken a mighty step toward mastering your life with the quiet strength of a true Stoic. Don't waste energy trying to fix toxic men, and don't blame yourself for letting them into your life. See them as challenges, lessons that sharpen your growth, clarity, and self-mastery. Each time you hold your boundaries, choose silence over reaction, or walk away in peace, you're closer to inner freedom. I've faced these men, manipulators, false friends, controllers, and learned this. You don't need to defeat them. Just ensure they don't drag you down. Choose peace over reaction, progress over validation, and you've won in the calmest, strongest way. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, like, subscribe, and share it with a brother who needs it. We'll meet again in the next Stoic lesson, where you'll be reminded, peace isn't out there. It starts with how you see and respond to the world.